Meanwhile, the Senate burning the midnight oil last night to confirm Congressman Tom Price as the next Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services. Watch.
Are there any senators in the chamber who wish to vote or change their vote? If not, the ayes are 52, the nays are 47. The nomination is confirmed.
Joining me right now is one of the architects of Obamacare, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel. Dr. Emanuel, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Nice to be with you again.
So this confirmation comes after a delay by Democrats to vote on Price. What do you think was behind the delay?
Well, there are a lot of ethical questions about Mr. Price's investments and what he told Congress about his investments and whether he was truthful to them. I think that is what's behind it. There's also a philosophical disagreement about how to proceed with health care reform. Yeah, and by the way, I think there's a philosophical disagreement between Dr. Price and President Trump. They don't agree on lots of things. For example, keeping Medicare as it is.
Yeah, it's hard to have credibility when you're against everything, right? I mean, Tom Price was one of several nominees that saw major problems in terms of getting their confirmation done. So you just don't know what to believe at this point because the Democrats have been doing a lot of stalling during this confirmation process.
Maria, memories may be short on this program, but in 2009, that was Mitch McConnell's approach to everything Mr. Obama proposed as president. Just say no to everything. It seems that was the Republican playbook. The Democrats have not just said no to everything. They were very supportive of the Secretary of Defense. They were supportive of other nominees.
Yeah.
It's nominees who are unprepared, like the Secretary of Education, and who have some ethical questions, like Dr. Price.
Yeah.
When those things get cleared up, then Democrats have been more cooperative. Democrats have been more cooperative than Republicans were in 2009.
I think that was a response to President Obama's executive orders, by the way.
And Dr.
Emanuel,
how do you see this? Ethical
there
problems.
were no executive orders.
Yes, there were. There were several executive orders under President Obama. That's one of the reasons that Donald Trump got elected, because of President Obama's executive orders. And people
I'm talking about in 2009.
Yeah.
You'll remember
so it was a response to Obamacare. Your legislation.
You'll remember in 2009, we had a serious recession in this country that had to be combated, and President Obama introduced the Recovery Act, legislation to stimulate the economy and to bring us back, which worked remarkably successfully.
But then he pushed forward this gigantic health care legislation that took the oxygen out of the room on helping the economy, and in fact, it hurt economic growth.
No,
Governor,
Maria,
when you look at the impact of 16% of the economy being health care.
Maria, you can have your opinions, but you cannot have your facts. The facts are there is no evidence that the Affordable Care Act limited economic growth. As a matter of fact, after
100%
passage of,
wrong.
After
100%
passage
wrong.
of the Affordable Care Act,
I speak to CEOs and managers of businesses every single day on this program, Dr. Emanuel, and the one thing that they tell me is the reason that they have not hired more people, invested more in their business, is because of the cost of health care. That's the reason.
Let me remind
and when you
you
have a legislation that is 18% of the economic growth story, you can be sure that health care is going to have an impact on economic growth.
Maria,
that's a fact.
let me make 2 quick points. The first point is we agree, you and I, me and the President, that the fact is we need more affordability in health care, and I've worked tirelessly to get health care costs to become under control. Second point is, under President Obama, we had more low inflation than we did under President Bush. To restate some important numbers, under President Bush, health care premiums for a family went up 80% in his 8 years. Under President Obama, they went up 35%.
This is not a conversation about President Bush. As much as you want to blame President Bush still for all the problems under Obama, we can't do it today because it doesn't make sense. This year, premiums in Arizona will be up 116%. Premiums across the country will be up in the double digits. That's a fact, Dr. Emanuel.
Maria,
we know that. And we know that the cost of health care is the reason that executives have not hired more people and the reason that managers of business have turned full-time jobs into part-time jobs. That's a fact.
I couldn't agree more that we need to get health care costs under control, and I've proposed many ideas to do that. Changing the Affordable Care Act is not actually going to do that. And let me note that if the Republicans succeed in taking away the expansion of Medicaid and getting rid of the mandate and the subsidies so that the exchanges fall apart, health care costs are going to go up. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that if they do those 2 things, by 2026, premiums are going to have doubled for people. So that is not cost control. That is irresponsible practices.
And Obamacare wasn't?
Yeah, Doctor, you know, one of the things that I want to take exception to is the personal attack on Tom Price, who I know personally. He's a good man. He offered ideas. They were rejected. The president, when Obama was president, said, elections have consequences. We won. And he basically pushed back and said, we're not interested in any of the ideas. When you bring up and said Tom Price has ethical problems, there was a $2,500 investment that somebody is questioning. I hardly think that the man is somehow corrupt because in a blind trust that he had nothing to do with personally, his investment counselor bought $2,500 worth of stock. If Tom Price can be corrupted because of a third-party transaction, then there isn't a person in politics today who is going to be able to withstand the scrutiny.
Excuse me, let me make 2 points. First of all, we in medicine, there is a zero conflict of interest, no money. The second thing I would say is Mr. Price did not have a blind trust that was dealing with it. He knew about those things because he filed his reports, and he didn't tell the truth to Congress about how much and which investments he actually controlled. In Innate Immunologics, the Australian company, he got preferential treatment the rest of us did not get, and he did not tell the truth to Congress when he was asked about that investment. Well, that is not about how much money. That is about telling the truth. Right. And this is a very I'm an ethicist. That's what I do. I'm a bioethicist. This is a very important issue about telling the truth and having insider information and changing it. Well, he also got money to introduce legislation, and then he bought on the basis of his introduction of legislation. These are serious issues. Now, Dr. Price, I think he does have the best interest of patients at heart when he is a practicing doctor, but this is about policy, which is a very different issue. And I would re-emphasize, his policies and President Trump's policies don't agree all the time. And President Trump has said he wants to keep Medicare. He likes that proposal. He wants to get everyone insured. That's not Dr. Price's approach.